afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Tyler Werner Show right here on Kutztown Radio on this pretty nice warm mid-October day, coming off of Week 6 in the NFL. And now I thought of this ahead of time to start the show before I even get into anything, just to kind of set the stage for what went down this weekend. I'm gonna pull a double reverse here, I guess, if you want to go football, and start off with the Tyler Werner call out of the week.
It's time for Tyler Werner's call out of the week.
I just think somebody owes us an explanation, that's all. What's the matter with you?
Loser! You're a loser!
Are you kidding me?
Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every word I have to say!
And if you saw the way the New York Giants came out and just got absolutely shut out by the Philadelphia Eagles, it's not. I don't think it's too hard to see where this call out is going. And if you heard a lot of the trash that was talked last week by let's see, Jason Pierre-Paul had some things to say. You had the photo of what was it? A former Eagle, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, and I believe it was Prince Amukamara, or however you say it. I apologize if I botched the pronunciation there. You had those two guys, taking a picture with this guy in an Eagles jersey that, had the number 0 and the name was Super Bowls. The old, how many Super Bowls do the Philadelphia Eagles have? It's something that a lot of Giants fans, amongst other fans of the other teams in the NFC East, like to use against the Eagles. And ironically, it's kind of funny because when it was all said and done, the amount of Super Bowls that the Eagles have would also be how many points the Giants would score against the Philadelphia Eagles this past Sunday night. Say what you want about the Eagles, but that was a outright butt whooping last week. And coming from Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, how it's funny you say that the Eagles, they haven't won a Super Bowl, and neither of you in your NFL career yet. And Prince, the other guy in the picture, he was on the one Giants team that won a Super Bowl, but he was like a rookie, and he didn't really have any factoring into that Super Bowl win, really. And then you go over to Jason Pierre-Paul, and I have audio queued up and ready here, kind of like a montage of things, or montage of things, depending how tomato, how you want to pronounce it there. A little montage of some of the things Jason Pierre-Paul had to say this past week leading up to the game against the Philadelphia Eagles.
I don't like Philly. I don't care if I was at Philly. I don't like Philly. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, yeah, they 4-1. You know what I mean? But they could have easily been 0-4. Yeah, the games were that close. You know it too. I watch TV. You watch TV too. You know what I mean? Games are close. I feel like we shouldn't go out there and make it a close game. If you're wearing a Giants jersey, let's go to my fans out there. Make us proud. You know what I'm saying? Because they know they don't like you. You probably got the nosebleed seats, and then you probably get a hot dog thrown at you. Whatever. They don't like us. You know what I mean? Just like when they come up here, don't nobody like the Eagles. We don't want nobody on our side. We just like our fans only. You know what I mean? All the broadcasters and stuff, they don't know what they're talking about. This is probably the most I ever talk. Yeah.
JPP. All right, so there you have some more. Now, I want to go back to the one part where they talk about how the Eagles are 4-1. Let's listen to that again. What he says.
At the end of the day, yeah, they 4-1. You know what I mean? But they could have easily been 0-4.
Now he said, yeah, they're 4-1, but they could have easily have been 0-4. That doesn't necessarily make sense because they played 5 games at the time. He could have said they could have been 1-4, but I mean, I think clearly he said, but they could easily be 0-4. I mean, that doesn't. I don't think that really stacks up here. And he also mentioned about the Philly fans or the Eagle fans will probably throw hot dogs at the at Giant fans.
It was like sweet and sour pork, right?
But then, you got to give fans credit when, for instance, Victor Cruz went down, and it appeared, the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles fans out there, and I mean even the Eagles themselves, were kind of applauding Victor Cruz, like as in like get well soon, I guess. Good luck in recovery, and I mean that was I think the fans stepped outside of themselves in that when that happened, when Victor Cruz, I guess his knee buckled on that one play, torn patella in the knee or whatever, and it sounds like he's going to be out for the season, and he's going to have quite a recovery. And I mean the Eagles fans were respectful about that. I thought, they kind of, I think they wished him well and whatnot. And, so I mean, the whole throwing hot dogs at the Giants fan, or I don't know, whatever he said there. I don't know. I mean, the bottom line was a lot of trash was talked here. And, I mean, even though there were obvious loopholes, as I just pointed out, in some of the, this trash talking done between the they could easily be 0-4, even though, they're 4-1. And, you got Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, who hasn't won a Super Bowl in his career, kind of saying how, the Eagles, are being in a picture where a guy's wearing an Eagles jersey that has 0 and Super Bowls above it. That doesn't totally stack up. Not only that, I mean, Rodgers-Cromartie's been thrown around different teams like a sack of potatoes the past few years. I mean, he was with the Eagles. He had a short stint with the Eagles and Broncos one year last year. A chance for Rodgers-Cromartie to win a Super Bowl ring, and of course, we all saw how that turned out.
I hear you.
And now he finds himself on the New York Giants, and kind of getting, him and his squad getting beaten down and shut out this past week. So, I mean, again, a lot of trash talk was, really came about last week, and not really early enough for me last week to talk about it on the Tyler Werner Show, leading up to the big division game with the New York Giants. I sat here last week and I said, it's too early I don't have a definitive prediction on this game. It was too early for me to predict. But by the time, Sunday night rolled around, I'm thinking the Eagles, they got to win this game. And, if you follow me on @Tyler Werner Show on Twitter, basically that's what I said. I said it's a must-win for the Eagles. I didn't have a prediction in there, but when it was all said and done, when I go on ESPN.com and I make my picks, I picked the Eagles to win the game, and sure enough, they did by a wide margin on all sides of the ball. Now, again, I mean, it was a game that leading up, I mean, coming off of that Rams game that, it looked like the Eagles almost gave up. I mean, I think the general consensus was that, the Eagles are 4-1, but it's a flimsy 4-1. I kind of sat here and I said that last week. I mean, they don't have a convincing win in some ways. They haven't played 4 quarters yet the entire season in any game. There were games where they maybe benefited from mistakes on the referee's part. There were games that they started out in the first quarter awful, and then later on in the game they come back and make a big comeback, or they almost cough up a game to the Rams, for instance, and it's just one of those things that, yeah, I mean, the Eagles, again, I sat here last week and I said, I don't really care, from here on out, they're 4-1. That's great. I mean, they haven't been playing complete football, really, all season long up until that point. And obviously, with this Giants game this past week, they played a rather complete game. I mean, now, not everybody was perfect, and I think Nick Foles would agree.
Let's make some noise, come on!
But I mean, across the board, I mean, everybody in this game was on top of their game, pretty much for the most part. I mean, obviously the defense, even the cornerbacks who were come under heavy fire with this Eagles, oftentimes, even they stepped it up and they played a decent job. Now maybe not early in the game when Eli actually had time to throw, because all night long he certainly. That countdown in his head just was accelerated, really.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I mean, when, the past few weeks leading up to that game, I mean, Eli's thinking, I have all this time. The offensive line was, on top of their game. And obviously this week that was a much different story with the Eagles' front seven here. I mean, 6 sacks across the board. The Giants, now Rashad Jennings was out, who was playing well, but the Eagles stuffed the run game completely, pretty much. And they were all over Eli Manning. They were all over the Giants' offensive line. And the idea here was that the Giants, the key to the Giants, and Eli Manning in particular, was that he was getting the ball out of his hands quicker with this, quick-paced offense that they had going. And, suddenly, I mean, Eli Manning, who wasn't getting the ball out of his hands quickly, which is, I guess normally supposed to, be the deflection of the pressure coming his way. And, but I guess, the credit to the secondary and the linebackers for locking down their receivers at times. And, suddenly Eli Manning doesn't know where to throw. And then suddenly he's getting sacked, or he's got to throw the ball away, or however you want to put it. I mean, credit to Billy Davis and the game plan that they got together. First shutout for the Philadelphia Eagles since 1996. And I mean, coincidentally, that last shutout was against the New York Giants, actually, then. But it's just hard to believe that throughout the, and I'm not trying to take anything away from the era, but with the ferocious defense that the Eagles often had during the Andy Reid era, I was shocked when they didn't shut out anybody throughout that entire era with some of the defense, the defensive squads and that they had out there, and so I mean, Billy Davis and that defense, who I thought to some extent were going to get torn apart. I mean, I picked on the on-air fantasy team last week. I picked Victor Cruz as one of my receivers because I thought, oh well, he's probably going to come out and tear the Eagles secondary apart. Whoever's whichever cornerback's covering him, and no, that didn't happen. As Andy Reid would hint at there. So I mean, again, credit to the game planning here of Billy Davis's defense. Getting Eli Manning's face. Whatever the secondary did here differently, I mean, credit to them. Great job by the defense as a whole. And yes, it would definitely be a roaring round of applause worthy performance there by the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Definitely. And then, obviously there's going to be, there's other things that we saw out of this game that was good that we'll get to as well on the show today. Now, of course, before this game, you saw, if you were watching the game or, well, actually, I think, was it CBS got criticized for this because they still had to show the, what was it, the Bengals in the Carolina game or something that just went into overtime and the Bengals miss a field goal and absolutely blow it. I guess they still had to show that game or something, and they didn't get into showing what was going on with or I don't know, maybe it was some other game, I don't know. And you didn't get to see some of the Seahawks and Cowboys game, which ironically, the Cowboys won. I mean, again, solid. The Cowboys defense, I don't know, what happened this year. I mean, this defense that seemingly had no talent, seemingly had maybe less talent on their roster than it did last season. It's just, it's continued to put it together somehow. And, I mean, the Seahawks aren't the biggest offensive juggernaut in the league, but, they're certainly not an easy team to shut down when you got Russell Wilson under center and, Marshawn Lynch, a.k.a., beast mode.
Beast mode!
And, Percy Harvin's a weapon, obviously, on that team. And, so, I mean, credit to them. And then, Tony Romo coming off his back surgery, in the offseason, some of the throws he made in this game and some of the catches his receivers made in this game, on this Legion of Boom defense or whatever people call it, this incredible secondary that the Seahawks supposedly had. And the Cowboys, in Seattle, I might add, beat the Seahawks. And, if you ask me, right, to do a power rankings thing, which it seems like a lot of people are obsessed with, I mean, the Cowboys just beat essentially what was, I guess, the number one ranked team on that power rankings thing. So, I mean, to be fair to them, I guess, right now, if you were going to do a power rankings, I would think that, I guess you have the Cowboys at number one in the league. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously a lot of discussion. But again, as I mentioned before, there's still much football to be played. I said that last week, and, I said, the first 5 games for the Eagles or whatever, it was good that they piled up wins and went 4-1 when they weren't playing their best football. That was all fine and great. I said, though, that there's still the bulk of the season that's going to really matter more in the long run. And, so you look at the promising game that the Eagles had this past week, complete 4 quarters, which, also included the Eagles, actually running down the clock at the end, in a sense, something that, they come under much criticism for not doing at times. You had that, and then on top of that, right before that, you have the Cowboys beat the Seahawks in Seattle, and suddenly this Thanksgiving game, as well as the one 2 weeks later between the Eagles and the Cowboys, has a lot more meaning, most likely than we would have thought in the beginning of the season when, people thought that this Cowboys defense was just going to be awful and that, Tony Romo coming back off back surgery might be questionable and this and that. Really, I mean, now the Cowboys and the Eagles rivalry, I think that hasn't really been hot for a long time. This season, that things might heat up once again for that Eagles and Cowboys rivalry for the to a new level for the first time in years. So that's really where we're at here. Now, it's the number to get in, 610-683-4859. I want to hear, anyone, want to get in thoughts on this, as the Eagles head into the bye here, as we, continue to, let other topics unfold on today's show here on the Tyler Werner Show. The Cowboys and how they're playing, other teams in the NFC, how they stack up. And I guess also if you want to throw in the Flyers weak start, unfortunately, the past in the first week of the season, and a game tonight for the Flyers where the puck drops at 7. So maybe we'll give some scoring updates maybe on that as in the first period or whatever as that game goes on against the Anaheim Ducks tonight. But we got to hit the first break here, so with that in mind, 610-683-4859 or at Tyler Werner Show on Twitter. We'll be right back after this.
Radio voice of Kutztown University, KUO.
Attention December graduates. KUSSI is sponsoring the Fall 2014 Graduation Festival on Tuesday, October 28th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the multipurpose room of the Student Union Building. The Graduation Festival is a one-stop shop for all of your December graduation needs. You will be able to verify the status of your graduation application, purchase your cap and gown, receive graduation tickets, order your class ring and announcements, and much more. The festivities will include giveaways and a chance to win one of our great graduation gift packages. All December graduates must attend the Fall 2014 Graduation Festival. If you are unable to attend this event or would like more information, please contact Matt Lothar, the Student Services Coordinator for KUSSI, at 484-646-4338 prior to the event. Congratulations, it's time.
Bob, your Crackle TV consoles are
It's 626 right here in the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio. We're talking the obviously the big Philadelphia Eagles win this past week. Sunday night football with Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth on the call of the game. A game where, they're kind of running out of things to say at the end of the game because it was just, it was so one-sided and, for a change, unlike the Rams game the week before where the Eagles were up 34-7 and gave up 3 straight touchdowns. Unlike that, the Eagles, at the end of the game there, they don't turn the ball over. The defense continues to, impress in that game and just shut down the Giants. And the Eagles actually run out the clock at the end for a change. I mean, again, last week was full of criticisms. I mean, after that Rams game, I mean, it felt like, even though they won the game, it felt like a loss because, the Rams are obviously a team that's, that has problems of their own. And the Eagles, again, in that game, they almost let the Rams come back and even win that game. But yet once again, I mean, the Eagles managed to hold on and win that game. But a lot of trash talking was done during the week, especially in the Giants end. Now, as far on the Eagles end, there was like Bradley Cooper or whoever, somebody, I guess, made this video or something, this like cartoon video. I don't know, I don't know, Fleming, if you saw it or who out there who's listening saw it. And, it's like Eagles defenders, cartoon versions of them, and like a cartoon version of Eli Manning all scared. And, I guess at the pressure that the Eagles were going to put on them, and it turns out they put on pressure on Eli Manning and then some, and that cartoon was actually pretty true in a way, because you started to see that Eli Manning deer in the headlights look, and Tom Coughlin looked like he was going to blow a gasket so many times in that game, and at times then you just see Chip Kelly on the opposite sideline, kind of getting a kick out of what was going on in the field, especially at the end of the game when, here the Eagles are, they're running out the clock, they're, for a change, essentially they're not trying to go down the field and score again and, this and that. They're not turning this into this, this Oregon game or whatever. We're just going to keep running up the score. And yet, in the final 2 minutes or what, I guess they have, Eli Manning was done at that point. He didn't play. But, Coughlin's using timeouts in the last 2 minutes when the game is absolutely over, 27-0. And, it's like, it came off as like a Bush League move. And, it's like, well, what do you, we're going to use, they're going to play the game as if it was close. You just try to get off the field at that point, I think, if you're just getting destroyed 27-0. And, I guess the whole thing was, we don't want to leave the field with a shutout maybe, or I don't know. But then again, they were in field goal range, I guess, at the very end, but they decided, well, we'll keep, we'll try to get a touchdown, I guess, is what they were trying to do. But, at that point, I think it just didn't really matter. And, Chip, you see Chip Kelly on the other sideline, just they show him like kind of laughing, like as if to, like, what are you doing here, Coughlin? I don't know, but essentially, that's what they were doing there, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, maybe they didn't want to walk off the field with getting shut out or whatever. I don't know, but it was just kind of an embarrassment there at that point at what they were doing. But again, you saw at the end of the game the Eagles running out the clock. On Chip Kelly's end and on this Eagles team's end, that was something that, with one of the main criticisms, and certainly like, Batman Wayne last week in his big rant on Chip Kelly, which was featured in the call out of the week last week. Out of respect, though, as of material, kind of some material to bring to the show. I think you got to be a little happy when they're in this case here. They're in a sense, it seemed like maybe they learned a little bit from last week. Like let's run out the clock here. And now this game was a little more lopsided maybe at that time than the Rams Eagles game had become, but it really intrigued me, like how they were doing this run out the clock thing. I don't know what who out there was watching, but they'd show a couple shots of like these, these two coordinators on the Eagles sideline during this time, because obviously the whole team is like looking over, I guess getting some kind of signal. I don't know, because you had like these two coordinators or whatever. It looked like they were playing like Simon Says or something, or a little bit of like head shoulder. Like they had like these synchronized like signals. Both guys. I don't know. It was pretty fun to watch. I don't know, who else out there took notice of it, but and I don't know. Collinsworth hinted something that if they see like a mismatch or something, then they'll run a play and they won't let the clock go down. But it seemed like here they were just, the whole offense was looking over and, kind of at the sideline, and, they were letting the clock run down, to like, 4-3 seconds, which is, is completely acceptable here. And also they kind of mentioned, Collinsworth and Al Michaels with, probably not too much to talk about at that point. It was kind of interesting. Like they highlight, an observation maybe they made was that, this Eagles offense is so used to, quick pace that, maybe they just don't, they're so out of the, take your time and run the clock down. Maybe they were so out of that loop that it was an adjustment for them to actually run down the clock to, the last few seconds here. And I don't know, but here it seems like they did a good job of that. And, in the future, again, I mean, Chip Kelly to me is a work in progress. And, it seemed like here, they did a good job of running the clock down. And, again, in interesting fashion, with these two coordinators on the sideline doing like these synchronized signals. And again, I mean, I don't know, it kind of looked like they were playing Simon Says or something on the sideline. And, but whatever it was, it worked. And, it's a good sign, from them. Now this is obviously a little off topic here, but it came up in the meeting, the radio meeting, the weekly KUR meeting, from station manager Mike Regensberger that talk shows. So I don't know. I guess in the past we haven't had to read like these advertisements or whatever you want to, these printed advertisements. But for a while that's how it was. But apparently, now I guess we're supposed to do 2 an hour. So I pulled one out of the folder here. So
okay.
So yeah, let me read this I guess this public service announcement, I guess you could say. Attention KU community. Are you concerned about rising tuition, student debt, the quality of your education? Do you care about the upcoming election? Drop by a free cookout and learn why this election is more important than ever for college students. It all happens this Thursday, the 16th, behind Schaefer Auditorium from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Drop by and stay as long as you like. This message of community interest brought to you by the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. So there you go. Drop by for a free cookout. Speaking of, free cookout or free food, I was actually on my way here. I stopped off and, it's just like one of those, I don't know, I guess, random blessings out of nowhere. I'm on my way to the studio here and I walk by and, I guess the artists, I don't know, or something, they had this tray, this nice like assortment of like cheese and I don't know, like, crackers and a nice little assortment there. And, I'm asking like, what's this about? And they said, oh, it's from the art students and it's, up for grabs, I guess. So, I took a little bit of that actually, on my way down to the studio and, you can't eat in here in the on-air room, but, maybe a little later when we take a listen in on the Chip Kelly, some of the interesting things Chip Kelly, had to say. Maybe I'll get into a little more of that later then.
Put some macaroni and cheese on there too.
Yeah, nice assortment of like, I don't know, like Swiss cheese and cheddar and I don't know, but anyways, before we get to the next break here, the running game, which, it obviously it took me this long to even get to the running game and amongst other things with the offense. Because again, I mean, it was from the standpoint of Chip Kelly and, this organization, it was nice to see the Eagles play run down the clock mode in fourth quarter, in what was a very complete, a pretty complete performance here. 60 minutes from the Philadelphia Eagles this past Sunday. Obviously, LaShawn McCoy had this, bust-out game that, was bound to happen sooner or later. I mean, some people were saying maybe, at the San Francisco game it was going to happen, and it didn't happen. Then you look at, the Rams game, it should happen, 30th ranked run defense at the time, and, LaShawn McCoy should bust out in this game. And it didn't totally happen. I mean, he got a lot of carries that game, but he still didn't have that, that LaShawn McCoy swagger that he had last year. Swag, I don't know, that's not a word I use too often, but I guess I just used it there in that case. So it still wasn't an all-out LaShawn McCoy game last week by any means, but then this week, I mean, $150 on. I think he averaged like close to 7 yards a carry this game. Now, obviously, credit to the offensive line in this game, first and foremost. That was, again, Jason Kelce is not still, he's not back snapping the ball yet. It's got another few weeks until that happens. Evan Mathis is still missing. So, I mean, essentially, you have the same offensive line that you had out last week against the Rams. And, you had Jason Pierre-Paul, who, again, I know, I laughed earlier about the trash he was talking and how his whole theory of that the Eagles could be 0-4 for obvious reasons didn't stack up. But he was this season. He's been having especially the weeks leading up to this Eagles game. He was having, he was looking like the guy he did a few years ago when the Giants were, en route to winning another ring. And now his matchup this week was left tackle Jason Peters. And Jason Peters playing his best game of the year so far, and bottled Jason Pierre-Paul up really well. And this entire offensive line just, for the most part, bottled up this, the Giants' pass rush up pretty well. So again, I mean, this isn't a completely healthy offensive line. Obviously, they got Lane Johnson back the week before. And they moved Todd Herman's back to his proper position. And, so last week they were still, a little shaky, though. But this week, it really seemed like they put it together. And I know their bye week is this week now, but it seemed as if they, it seemed as if they just came off a bye week because, whatever they did this past week against, what was a hot Giants team that a lot of people were picking to beat, to come in here and beat the Eagles. Whatever they did with the offensive line and just across the board in this game was, just complete, essential to what they, to what we saw in the field this past Sunday. Now, of course, I didn't even point out yet as well the whole blackout theme that was going in this game. It felt like a special game even just going into it. I knew about this ahead of time, about the Eagles' green uniforms, the midnight green uniforms. I never pointed out though or said anything. I didn't know if it wasn't on the it wasn't very high on the totem pole when you had other. You had plenty of other things to discuss. But, of course, the midnight Nike, I guess. It was something about the templates that the Eagles, when the Reebok was doing the jerseys for the NFL, they had, I guess, the Eagles wanted to use a midnight green template from that Reebok used or whatever for Nike to do, and Nike couldn't get the midnight green jerseys ready for the season, which I don't know how that happens, but nevertheless it happened, and that's why, if anybody's been wondering, that's why the Eagles have been wearing white this year pretty much in every game. And so what they do, this, still not ready leading into this game. They do this. They wear the black uniforms, but they wear black pants, which is something that they obviously they never do. And I kind of liked it. I haven't been a huge fan of the black uniforms. for the Eagles, but because normally they wear white pants then with the black uniforms, or maybe sometimes green pants. But I don't know. I mean, the black pants and the black uniforms, I kind of liked it. And again, I mean, I think the players were into it more because of that. The fans seemed into it. And I mean, obviously the crowd was electric, and it seems like definitely, last year they had this big, obviously this big losing streak at home that they were riding. Obviously most of that, most of their, 10 straight losses at home came from the 2012 year when the Eagles went 4-12 with Andy Reid.
Time's yours.
Yeah, and that era came to an end. And then a little bit of that losing streak at home carried over into the next season. And but now the Eagles are riding an 8-game home win streak in the regular season because they lost to the Saints at home in the playoffs last year. But in the regular season, the Eagles continue to be solid at home. And, maybe they get some kind of home field advantage going here. I don't know. I mean, the crowd was electric. And, certainly, I mean, I think that maybe that got in the heads of Eli Manning and his, the Giants offense that was having a tough time, being an offense out there. So, credit to the Eagles fan base, I guess, as well. And just this whole idea of a blackout, I guess, black uniforms and black pants, and I think everyone was into it. I was kind of into it myself. So another break, 610-683-4859. We'll get into a little bit of on-air fantasy football, I think, again after this break, and continued talk with the Eagles and maybe a little bit of Flyers too before we hit halftime on the Tyler Werner Show. Right here on Kutztown Radio.
Now, class, I need you to write a 3-page paper due at the beginning of the next class.
Need to pick me up in the middle of the week? Tune to KUR Tuesdays at 8 p.m. to catch Tyler Fleming host Aces Wild. He'll keep you going as you study hard. Yeah, right.
It's Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us.
Everybody always says that our world is truly small, but exactly how small are we? I'm Cody Seifert, and welcome to Telescopic Topics. Today we'll be breaking down the size of the universe and comparing it to measurements we can sort of understand. It's not very easy to tell the size of the universe since we can't even see all of it. The part of it that we can see we call the observable universe. In order to estimate the size of the observable universe, we need a starting point. Let's use our solar system, since we already have a basic idea of its size. Let's also use the light year as our basic unit of measurement. 1 light year is the distance it takes light to travel in a year. Given that light travels about 670 million miles per hour, 1 light year is about 5 trillion feet. This means that 1 light year is about as long as 1,000 of our solar system stacked side by side. Roughly 4.3 light years away from us is Proxima Centauri, the closest star to us besides our Sun. Scaled down, if our solar system was 1 centimeter in diameter, about the width of our pinky fingers, Proxima Centauri would be about 151 feet away. Moving on to larger bodies, the Milky Way galaxy is roughly 100,000 light years in diameter. If our solar system was scaled down to 1 centimeter, the Milky Way would be 621 miles wide. Zooming out further, the Virgo supercluster, a cluster of galaxies which encapsulates the Milky Way, is about 10 million light years in diameter. If we'd scale down our solar system to 1 centimeter, Virgo would be about 62,000 miles wide. The observable universe is approximately 28 billion light years in diameter. This means if our solar system was 1 centimeter, the observable universe would be about 174 million miles wide. So just take some time to think about that. When you look up at the stars at night, try to imagine how far away they truly are, and try to imagine how many other stars are out there behind them that we can't even see.
Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us. Stay tuned to KUR for more telescopic topics, and for more information or to hear the segment again, click on the Telescopic Topics icon on the KUR website at www.kutztown.edu/KUR. Telescopic Topics is a production of the KU Physical Sciences Department and is recorded by the KU astronomy students in the studios of KUR. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
6:49 on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio. On a nice mid-October day here. Got up to the 70s earlier, and it's going to be nice tomorrow. It seems 70s. I think it might be rainy the rest of the week, but nevertheless, I mean it's been kind of nice so far. It hasn't been too cold, of October, and can't complain. Now, again, it's a new thing here in the Tyler Werner Show with these PSAs that I must announce, and I'm going to announce this one right on time here. 6:50 is the time where these are supposed to be announced. So, attention KU community. The planetarium at KU will host a variety of shows and events this fall. All shows begin at 7 p.m. and are open to the public. The planetarium is located in Grimm, and all shows are followed by a Q&A with Dr. Phil Reed. Not Dr. Phil on TV, but Dr. Phil Reed. One such event is October 16th, The Sky Tonight. Admission is free. Investigate the conditions of several exoplanets that have been discovered. This message of community interest brought to you by the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. So there you go. Dr. Phil Reed will have a Q&A in that. So yeah, that does it for that one. All right. So anyways, getting back to the show here, discussing this big Eagles win this past week. I was talking about the run game before we hit the last break. And, again, LaShawn McCoy looked like himself here. And I think, mentally, I think, I think going forward here, I think, whatever monkey that LaShawn McCoy had on his back early on in the season, I think is officially off now. Again, I'm trying to talk here. I just dug into a little bit of that cheese I mentioned earlier. Had a nice piece of Gouda cheese, and I had to, coming up, I gotta wash it down a little bit more with some water. Yeah, with some water. But it's a little hard, doing a show here when you're coming off of eating cheese. But anyhow, again, LaShawn McCoy. I think that monkey's off his back that was on, early in the season. Again, I think the offensive line, they created some big holes here. And, again, whatever they did in practice this past week, technically speaking, LaShawn McCoy had, much bigger running lanes, I think, at times. And, they really game plan well with that, and LaShawn McCoy was finding the holes that maybe haven't been there in these earlier these early season games when he was getting bottled up before he could even find a hole. And he's the whole East-West running theory, just with LaShawn McCoy, he's trying to get that big play and it wouldn't come to him. or he couldn't get it. And I think now you look at this game and the running lanes seem to have come to LaShawn McCoy here, and he'd have time. He'd have a little more space, and he'd have a little more time then to make the next guy or two miss. And you saw several 20+ yard runs or more here out of LaShawn McCoy. So I mean, really, it's a good sign for him going throughout the season here. Now, on the other hand, you had Darren Sproles go down in this game with a knee injury, and I mean, you could see on the play, it just on this play where he came, he went down. You could see on the play when they showed the replay, just like that had some kind of knee injury written all over it. In watching it, the knee was not meant to bend the way it did on this play for Darren Sproles. But he got up. He kind of he got up on his own, it seemed, and walked off the field on his own. He seemed all right. He seemed like he was going to tough it out. And again, for his sake, I mean, you got the bye week coming up. Obviously, well, kind of now, I guess, if you want to consider, I guess now it has come up essentially. Now that it's Tuesday, but so his recovery begins now. And it's it seems like he's questionable right now for that game when they go down to Arizona, coming off the bye. The Eagles coming off the bye. It seems like he's questionable, but it doesn't seem like anything serious here, anything major, and so that's a good sign. And a little later on in the show, I'll play some Chip Kelly audio in his press conference yesterday on Media Monday, I guess if you want to call it, in the afternoon, when he discussed Sproles' injury and kind of a joking, Chip was very bubbly in this press. I mean, he's always kind of bubbly, but he was, he was pulling. Some rim shot worthy jokes left and right in this press conference, and we'll listen to it later. Not only that, the Eagles' midnight green uniforms did come in, and so they took breaking news, I guess, if you haven't heard about that yet, but those uniforms did come in. They took the official team pictures, I guess, for them. At a rather quick pace, so a little bit of foreshadowing in some of this into some of this Chip Kelly audio that we'll have for you later here in the Tyler Werner Show. As always, some kind of we didn't play any. We played Foles the past couple of weeks, and no Chip Kelly last week, but you'll see there'll be a lot to hear from Chip Kelly, I think, later on the show. But right now, before we hit halftime, as I call it, we have to get into the on-air fantasy, weekly on-air fantasy with me and Tyler Fleming here. Tyler Fleming, the producer of this show. Now, I got to say, once again, I thought it was an interesting week last week, where let me get up the file. Now, again, I mean, defenses are key here in this whole contest. And, for instance, last week, I mean, when we kind of joked about it when we were picking teams, Fleming and I, we joked how, when we're picking defenses, we kind of made the observation that oftentimes we're picking the defenses that are playing against either the New York Jets that week or the Oakland Raiders. That seems to, that kind of seems to have been the strategy lately, and kind of a good one. Although you look at the San Diego Chargers, and their defense I picked this past week, and they almost lost of all teams out there, the Chargers, they managed to, credit to Phillip Rivers and the Chargers, they managed to win the game. But it's so hard to believe that the 5-1 Chargers almost lost to the Oakland stinking Raiders, and they gave up 28 points in the process. The Chargers defense, and they only caused one turnover. But so basically, that my score that I had running took a big hit because of that. And once again, Fleming reigns supreme this week in the fantasy football, on-air fantasy football. Two in a row now for him. He had the Broncos defense who was playing the Jets, and I think the Jets put up like 17 in that game or whatever. But the Broncos, I mean, they had several sacks. They had a defensive touchdown. They had fumble recoveries and this and that, and so that really helped him out here. And of all teams, of all teams to put up 28 points on the Chargers, the Oakland Raiders, I mean, the Chargers defense has been pretty good this season. And, Oakland Raiders, who, again, are the Oakland Raiders, 0-6, I guess, but almost beating the Chargers. And in this case, their defense just, it hurt my fantasy team, definitely, here on the On-Air Fantasy Contest. Otherwise, you take that bad defensive performance out, and it would have been a very close game. I can't do the math right now in my head, but with the exception of the defense, it was a pretty competitive week. So now let's we'll wipe the board clean, and as usual, I guess I'll have the first pick once again now that I lost in the on-air fantasy competition right here in the Tyler Werner Show. Between Fleming and myself. So let me look at the game board this week and see who's playing who. And I guess I'll go quarterback first. And you know what? Last week I had at quarterback I had Peyton Manning, so I can't take him this week. And I'm thinking this week I'm going to take Tom Brady, who, Tom Brady, it seems like the past couple of weeks he's been back. So at the quarterback position, they're playing the Jets they host the Jets at home. So I think Brady is bound to have a good week this week. So Fleming, you picked Rivers last week, so anybody but Rivers for you at quarterback.
All right, and in a regular fashion, as one of us always seems to do, you took my first pick.
Yeah.
So, forgive me, my laptop died, so I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I wrote everything down ahead of time. So I'm going to stick with Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm surprised, again, I mean, shocking that this Cowboys defense is performing the way they are, but, I don't see 2 weeks in a row where, Russell Wilson has trouble. So, yeah, that's probably a good pick. And yeah, now your pick for the next position. You pick whatever position.
It's funny you mention defense, because I'm going to pick the Cowboys defense against the Giants, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, look what the Eagles did to them last week. It'll be interesting to see what, after, if the Cowboys have like this mysterious blow up game coming off that big win, I don't know. I see the Cowboys winning, but it'd be interesting to see if how this Giants offense comes back if they after the Eagles just shut them out. All right, now defense for me. I gotta try to be smart here, because defense has burned me the past couple of weeks actually. So, let's see if I can maybe pick a defense for a change. It's gonna keep the score low and get sacks, turnovers, whatever. And you know what? Actually, I'm gonna go with my actual fantasy football team defense on NFL.com. I'm going to go with the Houston Texans defense. Pittsburgh, I mean, they struggled against the Browns this past week, and J.J. Watt in that defense. J.J. Watt just playing lights out this year, every game. Coming off a few extra days of rest on Thursday Night Football, so yeah, I'm going to go with the Texans defense, and the struggles continue for the Steelers offense. All right, now one more position before we shut this down for now. For me, let's go running back for me this week. See who we can get on. Last week I took Foster, who was great. So I'm going to take DeMarco Murray, who I'm sure I might be taking your pick once again here. I don't know.
You are.
Yeah. Not a surprise. I mean, he's having against this Giants defense. I mean, they look bad. Look what they gave up to LaShawn McCoy. Things should continue for Murray, but I wonder if he can keep it up all season. That's the one thing. I mean, he's been great now, obviously, but...
yeah, I actually heard them talking about that on ESPN radio on the way in, how he's solidifying himself against one of having a great season.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, you wonder if down the stretch he comes down a little bit, but go ahead. Then you pick running back now.
As you mentioned earlier, you stole my pick, so I'm going to have to go with my backup, Le'Veon Bell.
All right. Yeah, last week you had Marshawn Lynch, so yeah, Le'Veon Bell. It seems like he's one of your favorites at times. So yeah. All right, so yeah, we have those set. We have that set now. Without further ado, we'll go to the next break. We'll go around the NFL a little bit, and get back to the discussion right here in the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio.
It's the top of the hour, and you're listening to the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR Kutztown. We can be heard on campus at 1670 AM throughout eastern Berks County as the audio backdrop of KUTV. Tune in to Service Electric Channel 24, Hometown Utilicom Channel 28, or Service Electric Lehigh Channel 266. You can also listen to us anywhere in the world streaming live at kutztown.edu/KUR or on your smartphone by downloading the TuneIn app. You can also tune in on any cell phone or landline simply by dialing 610-465-7860. We are the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR Kutztown. Nominated for Best College Radio Station at an institution with under 10,000 enrollment and winner of Best Use of Social Media, your news leader in northeastern Berks County, KUR Kutztown.
News, time for news.
The KUR News Time is the top of the hour. I'm Mike Regensberger. The Kutztown Planning Commission is reviewing a plan to allow for the erection of a self-storage facility. The Red Eagle reports the erection would be along the 200 block of Grimley Street if approved. KGH Properties wants to erect 2 storage buildings on a 2-acre vacant lot next to the post office. The same organization several years ago proposed the erection of an apartment complex at the same site. Project engineer Chuck Hess says a storage facility would be low impact compared to apartments. The Planning Commission voted to table approval of the proposal until November. The death of a local woman is being investigated by the coroner. 54-year-old Susan Stofflet was pronounced dead this past Saturday morning at Lehigh Valley Hospital after she was taken there by ambulance from her Richmond Township home after being found unresponsive. The Red Eagle reports an autopsy was performed Monday, but the cause of death is pending further tests. And in music news, Mark Bell of the electronic group LFO died earlier this month, Warp Records announced on Monday. Rolling Stone reports Bell died of complications from an operation. His family is requesting privacy. Bell was also known for producing artists like Depeche Mode. Checking KUR Sports, it's homecoming this coming Saturday, and the Kutztown University Golden Bears are going to be at home against Bloomsburg University. Game time around 1 o'clock on our friends at WLVT PBS Channel 39 out of Bethlehem. Speaking of homecoming 2014, it's all that. Join us this Saturday when the KU Golden Bears take on the Bloomsburg Huskies for homecoming 2014 and KUSSI Fan Appreciation. The first 500 fans will receive free sunglasses courtesy of KUSSI. Game time is 1:05. Experience a new kind of electronic music. World-class acrobats groove on the scintillating beats of DJ Buckin, while Circus Electronica takes audiences of all ages deep into the singularity. As technology and the human experience merge, witness high-flying acroballet blend seamlessly with electronic dance music in a revolution that is leaving audiences stunned. Weidenhammer presents Circus Electronica Saturday at 7:30 p.m. at the Santander Performing Arts Center. Tickets available at the box office, Ticketmaster, or 800-745-3000. Monsoon Mike says unseasonable warmth during the midweek, along with some stormy conditions coming Wednesday and Thursday, clearing for the end of the week. For late-breaking news, weather, sports, and traffic, sometimes before we can even get it live on the air, make sure you like our award-winning Kutztown University Radio Facebook page or on Twitter at KU Radio. From KUR News, I'm Mike Regensberger.
Any views or opinions expressed on KUR are not necessarily those of Kutztown University, Kutztown University Student Government, Kutztown University Student Services Incorporated, KUR staff and management, or other affiliated organizations.
.709 right here in the Tyler Werner Show, right here on Kutztown Radio, and it's time to go around the NFL a little bit here, as we always do around halftime on the Tyler Werner Show, and give my 5 impressions around the league outside of the Philadelphia Eagles. Some interesting games that happened this past week. One of them I gotta go with. This week I'm doing it off the top of my head. Number 5, the Cleveland Browns beating up on the Pittsburgh Steelers, 31-10. Just kind of an outright win here. And embarrassing the Pittsburgh Steelers this past week, and showing Brian Hoyer at quarterback. The debate over in Cleveland is, we got to go with either Hoyer or Johnny Manziel, because the longer it goes here with Brian Hoyer, the more they might have to pay him. So the sooner they make a decision, the less they have to pay him. So, but Hoyer playing pretty well here, and it'll be interesting to see what happens there with that. But a big win by the Cleveland Browns here, who are 3-2 in a pretty competitive and AFC North. You got to get the division right there. Competitive division right now, and the Browns are right in the mix of things there. Number 4, it's not often that ties happen in this league, but this week we had the Bengals and the Panthers tie each other in overtime. Each team getting a field goal in overtime. But then the Bengals, they have a chance to, a chip shot field goal, I think, at the end of overtime, and, easy win here at that point. And they missed the field goal, and you have a 37-37 tie. I would have thought maybe the Bengals would, at home, coming off that loss to the New England Patriots, I would have thought they would have, maybe bottled up the Panthers a little more, and this defense that was once really good would not give up 37 points, but that's how it is, and the Bengals are now 3-1-1 in that division. Past couple of weeks they dropped the ball a little bit, so there you have that. Next up on the board, Joe Flacco in the Baltimore Ravens. Speaking of the AFC North here in that landscape, The Ravens moved to 4-2, and right now are, I guess they're in the lead if you go by, 4-2 wins. Ravens playing pretty strong the past couple of weeks, but this game against the Buccaneers, I know it's the Buccaneers, but on the road, Joe Flacco comes out in the first half, throws 5 touchdown passes, and they were well on their way in that game. Obviously, it's another one of these games like the Falcons and Buccaneers a few weeks ago where it was just over before it even started. So 48-17, your final there, and it could have been more lopsided than that, certainly. But obviously, that's not how they played it. So, yeah, that's another one of those games. Number 2, yeah, we're at number 2 here. I gotta go with the Packers and the Dolphins. Now, I would have thought it wouldn't have come down to the end like it did with the Packers down and a couple times in that game. I would have thought Packers would come out stronger than the Dolphins here and beat them a little more in a little more of a one-sided game than they did. But it comes to, ball plays, it comes down to the end. The Packers are driving, and a fake spike play by Aaron Rodgers. Just when you think the Packers are down, you got Aaron Rodgers executing a fake snap play, or a fake spike play, I should say. Again, it's just another one of those, relaxed situations with Aaron Rodgers. And certainly that's what they did. Yes, and when they needed the game the most, when they needed the score at the end, and it came down to it, fake spike, and they just execute, and Packers continue their winning streak. They're now at a 3-game win streak, so Packers continue to look strong. And number 1, I don't think it's any surprise, the Dallas Cowboys. You beat Seattle in Seattle, and obviously that means something in this league nowadays. I think their last 20 home games, Seattle I think was 20-1 or something. They were like 19-1. Last year, Arizona went up to Seattle and beat them, which obviously was impressive. But of all the Cowboys go up there, and Cowboys were a hot team. Just when you thought they were gonna, end their win streak that they were 4-1 riding high. Just when you thought that was gonna come to an end, they go up to Seattle and beat them 30-23 in a rather interesting game. The Seahawks getting 2 chances at the end. Actually, the game, they were against the clock twice. I saw the end of that game, and Seattle actually got the ball back with some time after failing on one drive. I think turning the ball over on downs, and the Cowboys in zone defense. I guess pick Russell Wilson off. Out of nowhere, and there you have it. The Cowboys beat the Seahawks 30-23, and certainly as of now, they're a contender and not a pretender, as some people are now going down the list here and wondering about who's for real and who's not. The Cowboys are 5-1. But I think, again, I mentioned earlier when we were picking our fantasy football, can DeMarco Murray, keep up that, his kind of production all year? Can he stay healthy? Obviously, it doesn't look like the Cowboys are going to go 8-8 once again this year. Many would joke. It looks like the Cowboys are going to, one way or the other, going to be in the playoffs. Whether Eagles own, the Eagles fan base likes it or not. But, very well. I mean, the Eagles showed a lot of promise as well, which is ultimately what, what we're looking at right now. And, again, the Giants, people were saying, even that, not only the Cowboys might be better than the Eagles, but the Giants might be better than the Eagles. And after this week, it looks like the Giants, the Giants, they had a good 3-game win streak going. They look strong. But, now it looks like it might be a case of they are who we thought they were.
But they are who we thought they were.
Exactly right. And, their schedule coming up is getting a little tough, I know. They're going to have some tough games. Now they're sitting at 3-3. And that tough schedule for them starts with the Dallas Cowboys this week. You never know. I mean, it could be one of those games where the Cowboys just give it up and they sort of go back to looking like the Cowboys that have been known for giving up games at times. But their offensive line, I mean, I think, I think Brian Baldinger mentioned it or something, that they have like 4 first-round draft picks on that Cowboys offensive line. And, games are won in the trenches, as the saying goes. And you saw how strong the Eagles' offensive line was this past week. And, certainly you saw how bad the offensive line for the Giants looked against the Eagles' front 7. And, there you go. 27-0 shutout. That kind of says a lot there. So, again, I mean, discussion continues. And, I mean, it's kind of a good thing it's a bye week because all this discussion right now, I mean, we don't have all the time in the world in this 2-hour show to discuss, everything at once. So, coming up next week, obviously, we'll be looking forward a little more with, the Eagles and this division. We'll have I guess, if there's an upside, I mean, we got we'll have the Giants and the Cowboys game to discuss. I mean, it could be interesting. Obviously, it could say a lot on this division. I mean, it's, for maybe the Giants' sake, they got to maybe try to put something together to stay alive here. Because, I mean, if they lose to the Cowboys, I mean, they're 3-4, and they'll have some tough games ahead still. So, I mean, the way it looks right now, I mean, between the Cowboys and the Eagles, I mean, neither of those teams, may win less than 11 games this year. I mean, they could both be, depending, if the Eagles keep this up and if the Cowboys just don't erode, terribly. I mean, even if the Cowboys are a little weaker in December, I mean, they still look like they're going to win 11 games or more. And I think the way, the Eagles are putting it together, and in the weeks coming up, I mean, they can also win 11 games or more, by the looks of it. But I wouldn't, it's hard for me right now to go above 11 games for the Eagles, just because the schedule, it is tough. And obviously the Cowboys, who they got 2 games with, are legitimate. And I'm hoping they'll at least split with the Cowboys. And, again, I mean, the Eagles got some tough games ahead on the schedule. And, but certainly nobody I didn't expect them to be 5-1 at this point. So, I mean, and they weren't even playing their best football when they were, in those 4 games that some would say were illegitimate wins. So, on all cylinders, I mean, they're definitely showing some promise, this Eagles team. So that's always good. And now, let me deliver another one of these new public service announcements, as we will now have to do on a weekly basis here on the Tyler Werner Show. Attention KU community. Kutztown University's Marlon and Regina Miller Art Gallery will host an opening reception for the art exhibition entitled Engage, Color, Ritual, and Material Studies on Thursday, October 16th from 4 to 6 p.m. in the Sheridan Arts Building. This event is free and open to the public. This message of community interest brought to you by the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR, right here from Tyler Werner. So there you go, another announcement. And now with that in mind, it's now time for another break once again here on the Tyler Werner Show. So coming up, I want to play some of this Chip Kelly audio, some of what he had to say in some joking fashion. And we'll continue to dissect this 27-0 Eagles shutout right here in the Tyler Werner Show. 610-683-4859 is the number to get in. We'll be right back after this.
5th grade class at Lowers Park Elementary, and you're listening to KUR.
The moment she sees you, she gets excited. She can hardly control herself. She runs to you and jumps into your lap. You stroke her back. She licks all over your face. You rub her stomach. She pants heavily. Then she jumps down and runs off. She turns and tilts her head. She barks. She returns and lays at your feet. She whimpers. Then she darts off again. She probably wants you to chase her. She doesn't know you can't play like you used to. Because she doesn't know you're paralyzed. See, you didn't think you needed a seatbelt just to drive up the road. Then that truck ran that stop sign and bam, you got thrown from the car. If you had only known that most car crashes occur close to home, you would have been wearing your seatbelt. And you wouldn't be stuck in that wheelchair. And this story wouldn't have gotten all twisted. And you'd be rolling around on the floor by now. So buckle up, because you never know.
A message from the Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
$7:25 right here on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio, as we continue to discuss this big Eagles win, and you can join in on the discussion at 610-683-4859. And looking forward, maybe what this Eagles team can be this year, and what this Dallas Cowboys team rival can also be for this year. Because again, I say nobody is in most realists before the season. They looked at this season, they thought, the Eagles won't be 5-1, and the Cowboys, they won't be 5-1. Maybe 4-2 for the Eagles, maybe 3-3. I was kind of, wavering between those two games throughout preseason when, for instance, Sam Bradford went down for the Rams, and, the Rams were coming off the bye before that game, but that turned into a win, and amongst other games, and the Cowboys too. Obviously, who would have expected that they'd beat Seattle in Seattle? Now, if those two teams rematch in the playoffs, then maybe we'll see about it. We'll see about how that goes. I think at the end of the day, the cream rises to the top, as some would say, and it's hard to believe that, as talented as the Seahawks are, they drop one. First of all, they lost to the Chargers a couple weeks ago in San Diego, and San Diego's obviously a legitimate team. They're 5-1, even though they almost, for whatever reason, almost lost to the Oakland Raiders this week. But you had that early in the year, and you thought, maybe that was a bit of a wake up call for the Seahawks a little bit. They are, in this league, you are beatable, and you're not gonna go, 16-0 unless maybe an exception to that obviously is the Patriots. What was it, the 2008 Patriots or whatever, when they had Randy Moss having a career year and all that, and then go on to the Super Bowl only to have that undefeated streak go out the window to the New York Giants, of course, of all teams. But here, I mean, they beat the Redskins, not surprisingly, obviously, and they beat the Broncos before they went into their bye, and now suddenly, they're 3-2. They lose to the Cowboys. Again, another shocker, and I mean, they still. I mean, the Seahawks. They still have 2 games against the Cardinals. They still have 2 games against San Francisco, who, again, I mean, San Francisco, they're missing some talent, and they've had some injuries here and there, but, they're still 4-2. I mean, so I mean, the Seahawks, they still have some tough games, and, again, I mean, one of them, I mean, they got to, in between in between their 2 games with San Francisco, they got to come over to Lincoln Financial Field to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. And now again, I mean, that's still a little far off. I mean, this season, the way I look at it, an NFL season, you continue to let it evolve a little bit. Because again, I mean, you look at the Falcons a couple weeks ago; they were 2-1. And they, it looked like they were going to have a bounce back year, but their offensive line's banged up. And here at home, they struggle at home, and they've just, now they're 2-4, and you kind of let the season evolve a little bit. At least that's unless you're like the Denver Broncos, and you kind of know that the Denver Broncos are going to, likely have home field advantage. Unless maybe the Chargers have something to say about that. Unless, you're a team is kind of already, ingrained in your mind that they're going to be there when it's all said and done. They're going to be a great team. And that's kind of what, the Seahawks, you would think, they wouldn't be 3-2 right now. But ironically, they're 3-2. And, I mean, again, this Seahawks team, they're loaded with talent on defense, I know, and obviously Russell Wilson is a great quarterback in this league, and, people joke about how he was 5'10", and this, how he's 5'10", and this and that, and, how he only looks good, looks good because his defense does all the work, and, I don't think that's entirely true. And then you look at their running game that's strong. It's a talented team, but you want, obviously now, I mean, they're, right now the Cowboys, I think, are the team, is the team to beat in a sense, now that the Cowboys beat the team that was, quote unquote, the team to beat, really, in the NFC. And, I don't think, obviously, I think when it's all said and done, obviously Seattle's going to probably, be in the NFC Championship game and most likely be on all cylinders and probably go back to the Super Bowl, I would think. But, you wonder right now, 6 weeks into the season, maybe a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover. I don't know. I mean, we saw that with the Ravens last year. Even though, the Ravens, they lost some guys and they were in a bit of a transition. But, it just kind of, brings up the question a little bit. Is there maybe a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover in the Seahawks? Because, you'd think that on paper, the Cowboys, their defense, who's on this defense that in the season you had confidence in? And it's, the fact that somehow their defense has kind of emerged a little bit, it gives me a little bit of hope that, some guys on this Eagles defense might be doing the same thing. This young defense. I know, I know it was one big shutout win. I know it was one game. Although, the defense was pretty good against San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, with the exception of the secondary. And they were, I mean, I guess it's not saying much against the Rams, but they were doing well until the end of the game, where I think they got away from what was going well for them the entire game, and taking the foot off the gas pedal, so to speak. And so I mean, again, I mean, I'm not 100% sold on the defense, obviously, but definitely in recent weeks they've been getting to the quarterback. And I mean, in this case, you had Connor Barwin with three sacks. I mean, that gets a beast mode sounder there. Trent Cole, who's in his 30s now. I mean, he came out and played like a young Trent Cole, and amongst other guys on this front seven. That again, there's some other young talent that Brandon Graham seemed to be coming into his own a little bit, maybe playing a little more like the first round draft pick that you would have expected him to play at, like, and so you wonder if maybe this defense can develop a little more. And I would expect that down the road, I mean, the cornerbacks will get exposed again at some point. They might come back down to earth, and this Eagles defense isn't gonna shut out everybody every week, and they're not going to shut down everybody. But I mean, at least there might. It seems like there could be some guys that can emerge as some great defenders on this front seven. I mean, again, if you look at what the Cowboys are somehow doing on defense so far this season, you can if before the season you were to say that there's no way the Cowboys are going to beat the Seahawks in Seattle Week 6, and then they go and do it. I mean, I guess anything is kind of possible in this league, and it'll be interesting to see. Again, I mean, coming off the bye and against some of these other teams that they're going to play, some of these tough teams, if they can, if they can continue to get pressure on the quarterback. I mean, for one thing, if you pressure Carson Palmer of the Cardinals, you pressure Fitzpatrick on the Texans, they're gonna throw interceptions, and they're gonna turn the ball over, and you'll definitely be in good position, maybe in the turnover battle if they continue to pressure the way they did. I mean, you watch like Connor Barwin and just like pulling spin moves on this Giants offensive line that was on a roll, and it gives me hope, at least, that this defense. I mean, they got some pieces. They don't have it all, but I mean, again, I mean, they just front seven. Just the past several weeks, I think the number is 16 sacks. The past 3 weeks, the past 3 games, I think is the number, and that's definitely pretty impressive. And I mean, 4 of those, 2 of those quarterbacks were mobile quarter. I mean, Kaepernick being one of them, and Austin Davis, third string quarterback. But he had some mobility, so. And then, again, I mean, Eli Manning, who has been getting the ball out of his hands quickly. I mean, just that wasn't the case this past week. So, some good signs from the Eagles' defense. Now, I mentioned earlier Darren Sproles, his knee injury, and amongst other things earlier, I mentioned how Chip Kelly had some things to say about that in his press conference yesterday, in some humorous fashion, I guess, with the media. Let's hear some of what some of the things Chip Kelly had to say yesterday.
Got you, Rope.
Chip, what can you tell us about Darren Sproles?
He has a spurs. Right, Les?
Yeah.
You like that?
Okay.
Spurs, is that it's a 31. 31 spurs. Now, he's got an MCL sprain, so we'll see how long it's going to be. Could be a week or two. could be back after. We have a week off, so he'll get treatment and we'll assess him when we get back next Tuesday.
Less serious is the Mathis's sprained MCL.
Yeah, from what I understand. I mean, obviously, Evan was out for 8 weeks, so it didn't sound like it was going to be that long.
Any kind of a sigh of relief on that, especially what he's kind of done in both phases of the game, that it's not worse?
Yeah, I didn't think it was worse, so, I mean, there was no relief from there. I didn't think it was. I mean, I talked to Darren after the game, and he didn't seem like it was anything big after the game. It was walking fine. There was really no swelling last night, so I wasn't as concerned maybe as some other people were.
As far as depth at that position, will you wait until the players come back, or do you think they'll need to make a move?
I just said he's only out for like a week, so.
But you only have one healthy guy at that
But we're not playing a game, so. We will not make any moves this week during our bye week to solidify our team for the bye.
How did Trey Burton look on those 5 carries late in the game?
Trey did a decent job. I mean, it was obviously everybody in the stadium knew we're trying to run the clock out and work the clock a little bit. So, but he did a good job. He's got a good feel for running the football. He did a lot of it when he was in college. They played him all over the place at Florida. He was a quarterback. He was a receiver. He was a tight end. But he can move with the ball in his hands. So I think he's got a decent feel. It's just a matter of getting him experience.
All right. So yeah, they had it with the I guess a Darren Sproles update. And it's a sarcastic Chip Kelly a little bit that. With the whole idea of him, they're in the bye now and this and that. Obviously no game this weekend, so it seems like though maybe he'll be on track to maybe return for the Cardinals game and maybe continue to help. Maybe the variation, I guess, with LaShawn McCoy in the backfield. Now let's go a little later in the press conference when Chip Kelly, I guess, starts. They get into the whole team pictures and what they, I guess how they prepared for him. So let's listen to some of that. It's not even playing right now, so. It's one of those unfortunate...
And we try to teach it and coach it, about those self-inflicted wounds of, stopping ourselves. And I thought we did a good job of it. I think they obviously had more penalties, especially early, than we did. But it's also... It seems like there's a lot has to do with home field, too. I think our crowd had a lot to do with some of those penalties that were induced on their side, whether it be the illegal procedures or things like that. And that's just the inherent nature of being the home team or the away team in this league.
As you met with them today, what was the message?
We had to get a good photo, which was first and foremost. We set a record 4 minutes and 40 seconds. We got everybody, the entire team, every position group, the coaches and the training staff done in 4 minutes and 40 seconds. It was the most, literally, I'm not even joking, it was the most efficient photo I've ever seen. Our guys were, it was like they were dressed. There were guys dressed in full uniform. We had our meeting at 9:30. They were just ready to go. They knew what we wanted to get done. We started at 10. At 10, I looked at my watch at 10:04:40. We were done everything, which was awesome. So
you even do photography at tempo.
Oh, it was tempo. It was as good a tempo, and I would challenge anybody. And I'm talking, we got our team photo done. We got individual position coaches and players done at their positions. We got our coaching staff photo done, and we got our training staff photo done in 4 minutes and 40 seconds. It was awesome. They were set. Everything was going. We had to coach the photographers a little bit because they wanted to get a little bit. One of the guys thought he was Ansel Adams, and we said let's get this thing taken and let's go. You know what I mean? It's not like it's going to be hanging in the Philadelphia Museum of Art or anything. It's just going to go in someone's office somewhere. So let's just get it done. What was that?
There you go. That's all that with the whole Chip Kelly press conference there. I guess taking the photo in tempo and I would think jokes that I think even Batman Wayne out there would appreciate and just continue Chip Kelly humoring the media a little bit going into the bye and I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it's nice that they get this big shutout win as they head into the bye, and then they can digest it, and then they can maybe get back on track and to play the Arizona Cardinals. Tough game on the road coming off the bye, and but so there you had it with Chip Kelly and that pretty entertaining press pass press conference there. Maybe we'll play a little more of, I guess, maybe the actual serious aspects of it a little later if we have time. But so yeah, there you go. I mean, Darren Sproles. We'll see how he looks next week. At this time, and report on that. Once again, as Chip said, the photos, the team photos or whatever, are taken. Doesn't sound like they'll be in the Philadelphia Art Museum or anything, or whatever. But yeah, I guess just to go in, somebody's office, like he said. I don't know, but yeah, I liked how Chip Kelly kind of phrased it all there, and I don't know, put it all together, I guess, there, and that, as the media was discussing the even the I guess the pace of the picture taking for the teams as they finally got their Eagles midnight green uniforms today. So there you go. So now we'll look for the Eagles to be wearing those uniforms once again here as the season rolls on. All right, 610-683-4859 if you want to get in before the Tyler Werner Show shuts down for the day. We'll hit another break and we'll finish up strong right here in the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio.
Chicks, if you like variety in your music and a swing in your step, join me, Lise Avery, each week for Anything Goes. You never know what you'll hear on Anything Goes. It's a hip mix of swing, jazz, standards, and Broadway, and a little bit of just about anything else. So join me for the absolute best in popular song on Anything Goes.
Sundays from noon to 1 here on the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR.
KUR, the radio voice of Kutztown University, and Golden Bears football is your winning combination this fall. KUR is now your official radio source for all KU football broadcasts on the road. I'm Matt Santos. Join me live from the booth in my 23rd season of Covering the Team as my special guests and I bring you each and every exciting play from the 2014 road slate. We'll be at Slippery Rock, Gannon, Millersville, East Stroudsburg, Shippensburg, and Clarion, wherever the Golden Bears go. All broadcasts will begin 10 minutes before kickoff. That's KU football on the road, all this season on KUR, your exclusive radio home for Kutztown University Golden Bears football.
It's 7:45 right here on Kutztown Radio on the Tyler Werner Show today. I just checked into the score of the Flyers game here in the first period, and unfortunately the Ducks are already up 2-0.
Oh no!
And I mean, it's been a rough start to the Flyers season, certainly. They had the Canadians beat on Saturday, and I don't know how much you've been watching of the Flyers so far, Fleming, but it's. I talked last week about how it was the schedule. I mean, they open up in the month of October with 9 of 10 games against playoff teams last year, and it's unfortunate. They were up three goals against the Canadians on Saturday, and they give up 3, and it goes to overtime, and if it. Most of the time, I mean, if it goes to a shootout, if the Flyers take a game in the shootout, most of the time I just say, forget it. Yeah, for whatever reason. I mean, the Flyers they typically aren't very good in shootouts, and here the best of the Flyers, they can't score in the shootout, and the Canadians do, and the Canadians with a big comeback win, they started off 3-0. As a result, and so the Flyers are 0-2-1 right now, and in case you haven't been keeping up with the Flyers game right now, in the final minutes of the first period, they're down 2-0 to another playoff. You got to get another playoff team on this tough October schedule, so. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Flyers, I mean, sometimes they have a habit of putting it together late in the game in the third period. Although, of course, as I just mentioned, they, other times, like against the Montreal Canadiens, they cough it up in the third period. And then, it goes to overtime in a shootout, and then the shootout, they fail in the shootout. And, I guess, if there's any silver lining out of it, they got a point, given that it was an overtime loss. But still, I mean, that's a game. I mean, that's a game you don't want to give up like that, though. That's, I'm sure, Flyer fans were outraged after that game. And, I mean, a tough loss. And, again, I mean, no Eagles game this week. So, got the Flyers game, I guess in the meantime to keep up with, as far as games goes. And, we'll see where they stand next week. On Tuesday, they're playing the Ducks now, and then they got 4 days off before they play the Stars, another Western Conference team. So hopefully they can come out strong against the Star. If not this, if they can't put it together this game, maybe they put it together against the Stars, and they'll have several days off.
You gotta give it a few days to rest.
So, hopefully they can maybe benefit from that, and maybe start putting some wins on the board if they can't put one together tonight. The Ducks, obviously one of the more solid teams in what was a strong Western Conference last year with the new division alignments. So you got that, and then. Then they got the Blackhawks, next Tuesday, week from today. So, yeah, I mean, you got, 8:30 next week. So as far as Flyers goes, I mean, they got tonight, they got Saturday, and that'll pretty much be all we have to talk about. All we'll have to work with on next week's show with the Flyers. But, like I said, I mean, I'll definitely be intrigued about how the Giants maybe come out this coming week against the Cowboys, and what it might, I mean, who knows how they come out, if they come out absolutely flat, against the Cowboys, and, maybe stick a fork in this, in what was maybe 3 weeks of fame, for the New York Giants, and, maybe they'll be back to looking like the mediocre team that we all thought they were.
Mediocre?
Exactly. So, mediocre or maybe worse. I don't know. But I don't know. I mean, maybe the Giants pick themselves back up a little bit. And I don't know. I mean, again, I mean, line of scrimmage. And that's something that the Eagles excelled in this past week for a change. And it's obviously something they had trouble with in several games this past year. And yet they managed to put it together. You look at Nick Foles. He had a decent game. I didn't even really, talk about him yet.
How's everyone doing?
We're doing pretty well, and Foles did pretty well in this game. He had the 2 interceptions, and again, I said earlier, across the board. I mean, this Eagles team, I couldn't think of anybody really that dropped the ball in this game. Even James Casey got in on the action and got a touchdown pass, a wide open one, obviously from Foles. But whether it was good scheme work by Chip Kelly or this Eagles offense, a defensive breakdown. James, the tight ends were active in this game certainly. James Casey, he caught one on a tight end cross wide open, and then Zach Ertz coming out of the woodwork a little bit more, and catching a nice, a perfect on the money throw from Foles, and an even nicer catch by Zach Ertz in the end zone for another touchdown. Now, there was again, I mean, it wasn't a perfect game for the Eagles. I mean, there's still things that they can do better, even though they shut out the Giants 27-0. Now the defense, I mean, again, I mean, the Eagles' defense, it kind of looked like what San Francisco did to the Eagles a couple weeks ago to this Eagles offense when they couldn't get the ball past midfield at all, really all game long. And I don't know if the Giants really did that. I know at the end of the game when it was like, you know, who really cared at that point. You know, maybe they got the ball past midfield then, but Eli Manning himself, you know, I mean, the only time I think he had the ball past midfield was when, you know, after Nick Foles threw an interception. And, you know, then at that point, I mean, that's when, you know, they were already in field goal range, the Giants, but, you know, and they were trying to stay in the game at that point. So, right before the half, I guess, I think it was. And, that's when, you know, Victor Cruz, you know, on the fourth down, Victor Cruz drops the ball, his knee buckled or whatever, and he's out for a while. And again, like I said in the beginning of the show, you know, he was carted off the field. It looked like he was in tears, and I could understand that. I mean, that's, you know, heartbreaking. I mean, you know, the game he loves, and, you know, the game that, you know, so many people, you know, players love to play. Getting knocked out like that, and probably knowing that your season is over, I could see how that tears them up. So, you know, I mean, that was maybe Eli Manning's, you know, one chance the entire game of getting on the board, and, you know, it didn't happen there. And again, I mean, it just all night long, it looked like Eli Manning could not concentrate in the pocket at all.
It's like you got a problem with concentration.
I mean, he had that deer in the headlights look, and, you know, Tom Coughlin on the sidelines, you know, looked like he wanted to blow a gasket, and amongst other things. But, as for Foles, again, a couple interceptions that obviously they didn't affect the game really in any major way, since, you know, this Eagles defense shut him down. And other than that, I mean, it was just a complete one-sided blowout. So, you know, it is what it is. It didn't, you know, obviously the interceptions didn't cost them. And again, it continues to be some things that, you know, throwing off his back foot or whatever, in pressure, throwing the ball away, but not really far enough away, and, you know, amongst other things. But other than that, I mean, Foles was pretty decent tonight. And, you know, again, I mean, wait until the rest of the season plays out. But, you know, right now, it's whether Foles has been great or bad or decent. I mean, so far, I mean, it's been a winning formula. So, you know, so good work out of them. Now, before I forget, we got one more, I guess, PSA announcement here that we now incorporate into the Tyler Werner Show. Attention, KU community. The KU cheer team is holding a designer bingo on November 2nd at 2 p.m. at the Kutztown Fire Hall. Tickets are $10 for 5 games. There will be great designer prizes, food, and raffles. This message of community interest brought to you by the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. So yeah, there you have it. You got the KU cheer team with designer bingo, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, food and raffles. There you go. Now, without further ado, Fleming and I, let's pick the rest of our on-air fantasy teams here. You know, as we run down the clock here on the Tyler Werner Show for today. I left off picking the running back position. So now, Fleming, you can now you get the pick of wide receivers,
right,
tight ends, or a tight end or a kicker.
All right, I'm going to start off with wide receivers and pick Antonio Brown.
All right. Antonio Brown. Pick a receiver. See who's on the board here. Ravens have been hot. Colts and the Bengals. Someone just knocked on the door. I don't know why, but no, you know what? I'm gonna go. I hate to do it, but I'm gonna go another Cowboy here. I'm gonna go Dez Bryant at the Giants, or facing the Giants, I think, at home. And now we pick I pick the next one. I'm just gonna go right to another wide receiver. Now, let me see. I had last week. I had Cruz, who's done for the season anyways, and Alshon Jeffrey. 49ers. Broncos hosting the 49ers. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go a Denver Bronco here. Last week you had Demaryius Thomas, so I'm gonna take him this week against the 49ers. Let's see what he does.
Fair pick. And you stole my backup again, as always.
Dez
Bryant.
Oh,
yeah. I didn't want to interrupt you before, but
that's fine.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Steve Smith.
Yeah. Now, AKA Steve Smith Sr.
Yeah.
Yeah. But certainly not playing like a senior, I guess, if you are. Not like